Oh, hello there, and welcome to Phil Talking D20. So, today's hot take, Pathfinder 2 trends on Twitter, and Reddit goes crazy. What am I talking about? Well, we've had some really great news in the Paizo Pathfinder community. Starting a few days ago, we've seen a really solid trend on Twitter of hashtag Pathfinder2E being a strong performer, and not just like a general strong performer. I mean, outclassing D&D kind of Wizards of the Coast as a trending topic on Twitter, which is really good going. We've seen over the last weeks, months since I've been away. Yes, I'm aware of that. I preface many videos by saying I am the world's laziest YouTuber. I think I still retain my title. I had a Christmas break that turned into a January break. So apologies for that. But obviously, here I am, back on the channel, back telling you all things Paizo. And those are two great things to come out of the woodwork for. Now, even though I've not been YouTubing, I have been actively spooking about on the Reddit, engaging with the community, checking in on the 5e community, seeing what's going down. And it's been fascinating to kind of watch the momentum build. And what I mean by watch the momentum build is it's been undeniable to any frequent visitors of the Reddit to see more and more posts from new people, or from people actively stating, I'm switching over to 5e with my group and we're coming to try 2e because for whatever reason, insert here. Also, this coincides with a trend that I've started to notice on the 5e D&D side of things. We're starting to see reticence, that's a good word, isn't it, amongst the 5e community. There's been some releases recently from Wizards of the Coast which have, shall we say, not gone down well with their community, to the point where some quite large D&D centric YouTube channels have done kind of videos and skits complaining about, you know, more of the same, or trying to resell us existing products again. And they have, as their kind of viewing numbers suggest, they have really blown up as videos, which means there is a general malaise in people's affections for 5e. It's still perfectly popular. People are still playing it. It's not like this video is announcing the death of D&D 5e and its inevitable demise. Not at all. But Wizards of the Coast haven't been keeping up with the competition. And understandably so. This is what always happens. When you're the market lead in any particular range of products, and you are guaranteed custom and you're guaranteed business, after X number of years being the market lead, you get lazy, you get lackadaisical, you get other words beginning with L that begin and sound like lazy, because you've lost that competitive streak. You're not competing against anyone, you're not pushed by anyone. And so inevitably, just like we saw with Pathfinder 1, when 3rd edition and 3.5 were reaching kind of the end of their kind of product cycle, and Wizards of the Coast were like, hey, I've got a great idea, 4E, and the community went, no, and Paizo blew up and Pathfinder 1 became a really, really dominant force in the market. And then 5E, after Pathfinder 1, had become a big deal and started to get a bit fat and a bit lazy and being like, oh, look, we don't really need to do it. Oh, what's this? 5e. Hey, oh, look, we're trying. We care. We're trying. Yes, like any major corporation tries and cares. And now, funnily enough, those people who cared and tried, they don't care or try anymore. And people are now going, what's this over here? This thing, it has a 2 and an E. What if it's better than 5 and an E? Ooh. And excitement abounds. Now, I mentioned Reddit at the top of the rundown. And Reddit, where I linger and frequent, answering questions, generally posting silly memes, and also other things that vaguely may be of use, probably not. There was an interesting turn of events where we had our first kind of prominent gatekeeping major snobbery offensive by certain members of the community, where new players came to the table, sat down, and presented a post generally along the lines of the gunslinger is totally pants and the rogue totally kicks his ass, and that was the general gist of it. A party new to Pathfinder 2 had run up some high-level characters without necessarily kind of getting to high level, jumped right into the fun of it, got slightly stuck on things, got slightly bogged down on things because it's hard to play a new system. And the gunslinger was like, my gunslinger's totally pants and the rogue is totally kicking his ass when it comes to like damage and kind of output. And having seen rogues in my own campaigns in many systems, this is not surprising. The rogue is one of the ultimate glass cannons. They have lower hit points and they're normally squishy, but if they are in the right circumstances and they drop a sneak attack, then that's a big old bada boom. And it doesn't take long for savvy players to realise there's ways of getting sneak attacks off each round. And then what do? You get sneak attacked for loads of damage. And the gunslinger is a bit bap. It's not very good. It's not brilliant. I didn't really like it at playtest at all. I was a bit kind of like meh about it. And they tried when they finally got to Guns and Gear, the final kind of output product that features that. Great book. Inventor, brilliant. All the other content, great. Just the gunslinger's a bit... guns are a bit weedy. And I mentioned in a previous video, I get why they're looking at guns from a historical flavour sense, and when early guns were competing against longbows, such as the Battle of Agincourt, the longbow was completely superior to the gun. And now in the 20th century, the gun is all supreme. In the 21st century, it's still reigning supreme. But it took the gun a long time to get there, and they've kind of gone, oh, well, let's just make guns totally rubbish, because that's historically accurate. Where they could have maybe been a bit more fun. But the general gist of that group's gripes were they ran into a gunslinger kind of class build, and it wasn't fun for them, and they got really bummed out because the rogue was doing all the damage and was having a much better time and enjoying his class more. And they all said, well, the rogue's the best class and this system's stupid because why would the rogue be the best class? And people took umbrage, and there was some poor communication and general kind of uppity snobbery gatekeeper in us, the likes of which we often complain about in the 5e community, but exists in any fandom, anywhere. It's just one of those things. But the Reddit moderators jumped up and down on it, got a big post out, really kind of went, no, snobbery, gatekeeper, bad, smack. And hopefully that's gone and done, and everyone's going to make a bit more of an effort to be a bit politer, at least for the time being. And again, it's one of the brilliant things we've seen about Paizo and Pathfinder 2e trending on Twitter. Loads of the content creators that I enjoy and I support are also kind of going, hey, ask me any questions about Pathfinder 2e, I'll be happy to answer them. My response to those tweets, I haven't done them myself, is because you should read the goddamn rulebook yourself and learn to play the old-fashioned way of damn well reading and struggling, and watching YouTube videos. But you don't need to become an ambassador for every single question, like Jason Bullman isn't, and he wrote the system. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have his personal number. I don't, when I get stuck in the middle of a game, go, hang on, I'll just tweet Jason Bullman. Hey, Jason, just tell me this rule so I don't have to look it up in a book because I'm lazy. No. Just read the book. It's a really good book. You wouldn't sit down and play Monopoly and not read the rules to Monopoly. You wouldn't turn up to a football match as a player and not know the rules for football. I mean, I'm not asking a lot. Very little, in fact. You don't even have to read the whole rule book, just bits of it. And then as you need more, read a bit more. So don't say, hey, let's all tweet Phil loads of amazing questions about Pathfinder 2e, because he'll definitely answer them all. Because it's not that complicated. You're all capable gamers. You're all going to go the distance. You're all going to enjoy the hobby. And part of the hobby is some rules. I'm sorry about that, but it is. So read some. Enjoy them. Change them if you don't like them. But try them first before you change them. Otherwise, bad things can happen. Like Jason Bullman driving a big semi-truck through your house, and then Matt Mercer leaping out the back with a machine gun and killing the entire party in a frenzy. Because that's apparently another topic of Twitter. Matt Mercer. The Matt Mercer effect is most prominently felt by one individual, and that is Matt Mercer. Matt Mercer is talked about a lot as an effect. Can you imagine? I mean, obviously Professor von Heimlich had a manoeuvre, the Heimlich manoeuvre, which saves lives. But unfortunately, Matt Mercer's effect is either he's the most lovely, caring man in the universe, or he's the reason my game is pants. And neither of those are true at all. Well, I mean, obviously he is genuinely actually a lovely guy, so actually that one is true. You know, from my take on the Matt Mercer effect, please stop talking about the Matt Mercer effect. You get any idea how much pressure this puts on the actual Matt Mercer? I mean, you believe, I mean, if everyone was just like, oh, you know, the Phil D20 effect is totally ruining my game. And everywhere you went, people were like, oh, that Phil D20 guy, oh, you're ruining my game, I hate you. Or they'd be like, oh my God, you're like the most amazing man in the world. It would get a lot, it would be on your shoulder, it would be a lot of pressure. So think about that. When you're typing the Matt Mercer effect is, hashtag at Matt Mercer, what other, that's it, isn't it really? Tags you're about to post to Twitter saying that you either ruined your game or was the inspiration for your life and you're going to dedicate the rest of your life to serving him as a deity. Just don't. Just stop bombarding the internet with tweets about Matt Mercer. It's cruel to Matt Mercer, and he's a lovely guy, so he doesn't deserve that. And don't even constantly say nice things about him, because then you're just putting more pressure on him to always be nice. And sometimes you want to be grouchy. So yeah, that I think is the absurd Twitter kind of world news. Paizo, oh yes, Paizo, in other news, have several upcoming books that are very exciting. The Book of the Dead, obviously coming out in March. That looks like it's going to be a right rip-roaring, rollygagging, rollicking special about, well, what could it be about? Called The Book of the Dead? Undead? Yes, exactly. Congratulations, 10 points. So, that will contain stuff and things. There will be a review of that on this channel, which will detail the stuff and things in said book. But it looks like it's going to be potentially a good one. We've also got a fascinating book coming out, I believe later on in the year, which is all about kind of the fluff and flavour of Golarion from like a micro detail view. Does that make sense? So like all the silly fluff stuff that makes a world more interesting and cool than the fights that happen in it. Is probably the best description I'm going to give of that. That's been filling my Twitter feed alongside praises and exaltations or crying damnations of Matt Mercer. I think really, actually, I'm more annoyed with it than Matt Mercer is. So, you know, maybe Matt Mercer's just like, oh, I'm not really fussed at all, Phil. And I'm just like, ah! But anyway, if I have to be angry on Matt Mercer's behalf so he doesn't have to be, I will be that man. I've got you, Matt. I also enjoy the snippets where you have that little bit of like boyfriend-girlfriend tension with your wife. Because I game with my partner. Yeah, it can be tough. And I appreciate that you suffer that as well. I greatly appreciate that, in fact. Maybe that's my Matt Mercer effect. Oh my God, no! Anyway, so one of the interesting kind of topics that we started the rundown with was 2E trending. Brilliant news. And we kind of touched on possible reasons why, this slight tailing off of the release schedules for Wizards of the Coast and 5e. They are inevitably going to be working on 6e. Although I think they're saying 2026. Have I seen that somewhere? I'm sure I've seen that somewhere. Was it 2030? Anyway, there's kind of a reasonably long range date being provocated for a new version. And like I said, just because Pathfinder 2e is trending on Twitter, and it's clear that more and more players are switching over, it's nowhere near the end of 5e. 5e is going to continue to be played. There'll be people that play 5e and 2e. I am not going to be one of those people. I have played a little bit of 5e, and I'm going to stick with 2e. For this kind of fantasy roleplay stuff, I wouldn't use Star Wars or Dark Souls. What was another little joke there about stuff that's been going on in the gaming community in my absence? Yes, that's right. The aforementioned Dark Souls 5e conversion, which was roundly mocked. I mean, I'm sure it'll be enjoyed, and I'm sure it'll be enjoyable. Having played really unforgiving systems, for example, the old school Starship Troopers RPG, where you had 3 hit points, and every level you leveled up, you got 1 extra hit point, but only if you were heavy infantry. And the big bugs had 30 hit points, and that's not even the big bugs, just the normal soldier bugs with the big kind of bitey jaws and the spiky legs, and they were a d8 plus 5. That system, a system as unforgiving as that, where essentially a bug getting up to you basically meant that the minimum that was happening to your character was a critical injury that would leave them maimed or disfigured, like losing a limb or having their lungs punctured so they could no longer breathe without medical support, or die, or simply just being bitten in half and actually being dead. They're kind of cool for a session or two. There isn't a campaign there because there's no depth of characters, because your characters die. And it kind of is funny the first time you're like, this is Dave the gunfighter. Oh, he's dead. This is Dave's brother, Dave. And then it's just this is the vengeful cousin, Steve, who's a gunslinger. Do you know what I mean? That stops being fun after a while. So Dark Souls will, the 5e rules will probably be enjoyed by people in small groups, in small numbers. There'll be people that love it for a one shot or a 2 or 3 session campaign, but I'm not sure it's going to gain much traction, especially the way that the 5e community is already viewed by a lot of grognards, a lot of old school gamers who experienced first edition, second edition D&D. Look at 5e as being very over the top and very over heroic and very over kind of survivalistic already. Scaling 5e down to a much more brutal, unforgiving kind of level is an odd way to go. I wouldn't have chosen 5e at all for that. I'd have done something else. What would I have used? Zweihander? Warhammer? Fantasy roleplay? Anyway, you've got options. And you have always got options. So, that brief rundown of the generalness of the general activity that's been ongoing in my absence from the YouTube is almost complete. I do obviously want to get that Absalom video done and dusted, but I've been reading that book and picking my way through that book, and there's a lot of fluff in there, and trying to generally kind of break down sections of that book so that they're useful and bite-sized, not giving too much away, but also actually telling you something of worth, is fairly challenging. So, I mean, you could literally just review it as, hey, this book is about a city, and there's stuff in the city, and the things that go on in the city, and the bits of the city that are interesting, and hey, that's great. But there's more to the book than that. It's a great resource if you're looking to build campaigns in and around a city. It's got great lore and great fluff. If you love that kind of stuff, it's chock full of it. But yeah, just trying to get the review in a place where it works and does the book a service as opposed to just being slightly confused or just rambly, which is normally my MO, has proven tricky. But here we are. Pathfinder 2e is trending on Twitter. Long may it continue. Long may more players come into our flock. Everyone is welcome here. We are an inclusive community. We are an engaging community. And we still have some grognards in our community. And if we got rid of them, then we wouldn't be an inclusive community. The irony of that. So if you haven't tried Pathfinder 2e yet, and you were hoping that this video might provide some kind of useful insights into it, well, that's not my MO. But I do have videos that are slightly more geared up to that, which I'll put down in the description, and maybe you'll find them and use them to find out something useful about 2e. I've got one coming up about my current campaign, but I can't do anything with that because that campaign is still ongoing and I don't want to do spoilers for the gamers, but I'll be able to do that once I've done some more stuff. And then obviously Absalom, the Book of the Dead, various other books and content, and that again is an important message to leave on why Pathfinder 2e is trending on Twitter. It's because it's growing, it's expanding at an exponential rate. It's unstoppable. If they keep carrying on this ridiculous level of content, which already, if I'm brutally honest with you, does, and it's going to annoy people, surpass the entirety of the 5e in its lifespan of content. We've already got more monsters manuals. We've already got more like guidebooks and kind of placeholder books about lore and history. We've already got more campaigns. There's like adventure paths coming out our ears. The current one that's only just releasing is the Teton Tribes, the Frozen Tribes, the Tribally one. There's the new Gunslinger one based in the city of Cogs, where everyone's playing kind of gunslingers and kind of inventors and stuff. It's a bit kind of Wild West, Mad Max, kind of fantasy steampunk. There's every week there's literally more content, and that's why it's trending. So hopefully this rambling and shambolic brief rundown on why Pathfinder 2e is doing well and where I've been in combination with that has been of interest. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay classy, stay safe, and I will catch you on the next video. Peace.